in the world and be financially a lot better off.
And we had a non-dom regime that was basically stable for 200 years. It's only recently that it's been changed. And we're changing it and making it harder, just as other countries are making it easier. So you can go to Italy and you can negotiate an amount that you will pay. Portugal's been welcoming people. Malta's been welcoming people. All over the world, countries are saying, please come and bring your money. And the UK is saying, we're going to take all your money. We don't want you anymore.
That's right. Look, I mean, they're all encouraging sort of UK business people to come there, and it's working. If you become a tax exile in Italy, you pay 200 grand for the year. You don't have to pay no more. But the real problem is we're wasting their money, and they should be encouraging entrepreneurs to be staying. I think our biggest export at the moment is wealthy people.
So you're a businessman. You know how to do things and make a profit. If you're advising the Chancellor on how to get the money the country needs to pay for the public services, what would you be saying? Because at the moment, the tax revenues don't meet our expenditure. There is a gap. Something needs to give.
Resign.
All right, but that's not the answer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning to you. 9:30 on Wednesday, the 13th of August, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Good morning. Are we living in surveillance Britain?
Well, we need to make sure that we can use the new technology to make sure we can catch the most wanted criminals, dangerous offenders, but also that there are proper safeguards in place.
10 facial recognition vans have been deployed by police across Britain to hunt for criminals. But is this a breach of your privacy?
If you've got someone in your store now stealing from you, call 999. Also, ideally, try and stop them leaving. You know, don't just stand there and watch, which a lot of people do, which frustrates me.
So that's the Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner who wants the public to stand up and be counted to shoplifters. And if you don't want to risk it, Matthew Barber, who is that commissioner, says you're part of the problem. Has he got a point?
So I'm now on my way this evening over to the Calais area to find out a bit more about what's going on, what, if anything, are the French doing to stop this, and what the migrants themselves up to.
Two British shadow ministers, Chris Philp and Robert Jenrick, are heading to France to check out the people smugglers and the migrant camps. So how will the French authorities respond?
They'll probably say who. And a 25-year-old English backpacker pleads guilty after fatally crashing into a father of two while riding an e-scooter under the influence of alcohol in Australia. We'll be joined live by her lawyer in Perth.
Little kids, babies, you'd never believe it in all your life. Men or any nation would make people suffer.
And as we approach the anniversary of the Allied victory over Japan at the end of the Second World War, GB News has spoken to a remarkable veteran who's been honoured with a royal visit from the Duchess of Edinburgh. Don't miss it.
Benefits Britain or we soft-touch Britain? 1 million more people have been signed off work indefinitely since Labour took power, with a 64% increase in claims among people aged 55 to 59. So what's going on?
And just call me Mix. Non-binary teachers have the right to ask pupils to no longer address them as Miss or Mr, while the Education Secretary says gender guidance for schools is still being worked on.
I think, teachers can make that request, but of course what we'll be looking at is making sure that people are able to exercise their views on this topic too.
Hello, you're through to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. This is Miriam speaking. How can I help?
Schools are now giving teenagers, can you believe this, just as they're getting their A-level results tomorrow, lessons in how to speak on the phone to the university clearing teams ahead of their A-level results day. Good God, what have we brought up in our homes and schools, for heaven's sake?
So, shall I call you Mr. Andrew Pearce?
Honest to God, look, she was banging on the other day, and she's quite, isn't she, Bridget Phillipson, about the fact white kids, working class in particular, consistently fall behind in school exams and attainment. But then she has to start wittering on about all this woke nonsense, and it is woke nonsense. How can you call a teacher MX? Mix.
Well, I do know families this has happened to, children who have returned to school after some holidays and been told your teacher is no longer Miss such and such, call her or them Mix. And I think it's ridiculous, but it's also, it's indoctrination. It's telling a child that this person has changed their gender, which is obviously not true. No. It should be completely banned in schools. Why doesn't she just come out and say, no, teachers are male or female, that's the end of it?
We had a Supreme Court ruling which was crystal clear about gender, man, woman. But still it goes on, and it's because politicians are still meddling and interfering.
Or maybe because they're not. They should crack down on this kind of stuff instead of letting it flow through schools. Anyway, let us know what you think on that topic and many others. Go to gbnews.com/your say.
First, your 60-second news update with
Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. The top stories just after 9:30. Live facial recognition is expanding across England and Wales with 10 vans in 7 forces. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says they'll target people wanted for the most serious crimes. Meanwhile, in a move to boost transparency, police may now release suspects' ethnicity and nationality in high-profile cases. The policing minister says it would happen in most cases, aiming to cut misinformation. Plans to house asylum seekers in a Hampshire town centre have been dropped after the site was deemed unsuitable. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who called the premises utterly inappropriate, will speak at a protest later. She says the invasion must end. President Volodymyr Zelensky is joining European leaders today ahead of a Trump summit with Putin in Alaska. He's warning any deal without Ukraine would be dead decisions. Germany, the UK and other allies are pressing the US to keep Ukraine fully involved. And Gaza City has been hit with intense airstrikes as Israel prepares to seize the city. The United Nations and global leaders are warning of famine. The IDF, though, says it is targeting Hamas, but critics call it an unfolding genocide. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you for the news at 10.
Well, those are the headlines for now. Lots more news coming up. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Miriam and Andrew. And we're just talking about that story, weren't we, in the papers today, about how some schools are giving teenagers, so A-level students who are going to collect their results tomorrow, lessons in how to make phone calls to UCAS to try and get their clearing places at university.
So they've
got, good idea?
So they've got a degree in physics and further and applied maths, psychology, but they do not know how to conduct a conversation down the telephone because young people, because of parents, I'm afraid, and teachers, no longer expect kids to speak to each other. Because they spend all their time, Miriam, on their devices.
But
they text each other in the same house, brothers and sisters. Do you have a rule? Do you ever use tech?
I do occasionally, yeah. It's dinner time.
It's slipping out now. It's dinner time. So instead of shouting up the stairs, dinner time, kids, you send them a text. Yeah,
my mum used to have a bell. I think maybe I should get one of those.
Bring the bell back.
But I do think this is an interesting and a genuine problem, which is that because you can do everything, and let's be honest, a lot of us do it now, by email, by WhatsApp, we don't make as many phone calls as we used to do. And so kids age 18 don't have the experience. And one of the teachers said, with phones, they don't necessarily have the confidence to have professional conversations. They've never spoken to utility companies and been on hold for 60 minutes. And it's true, you wouldn't have had that experience as a teenager, so maybe you do need to talk.
Maybe that should be part of the lesson. Part of the sixth form is preparing for something called the real world, the outside world. You have to speak to people on the telephone. You might have to sort your council tax out when you move into rented accommodation.
But I do know young people who are very confident in other ways, but really hate having to pick up the phone to someone they don't know. I suppose because you can't see people, you don't have that kind of, the eye contact, and you can't tell people's body language, and you feel you might get rejected. I don't know.
They communicate with people on email all the time. They can't see them.
No, that's true. But it's less pressure then, isn't it? But I think this is a good idea, although I think you're right about parenting. I think sometimes parents are so keen to do everything for their children, they don't give them a chance.
It's a terrible indictment on what we're churning out of our schools, that kids do not know how to communicate on a telephone. They're about to go to university, which presumably means they're our educational elite, and they can't have a conversation with somebody down the phone about, I don't want to go there, I want to go somewhere else.
Well,
and
lots of
preferred choice is X.
Yeah, well, lots of university professors do make the point that some young people coming into universities now can't have those basic conversations with their colleagues and with professors. So, get them off the phones. Absolutely.
What are we doing to our kids?
Well, moving on, the government has announced vans equipped with facial recognition cameras will be deployed across Britain to catch criminals. 10
vehicles so far equipped with live facial recognition technology were provided to police forces to find people wanted for serious crimes.
But they come with privacy concerns, so do you want the state watching you, Andrew?
I'm torn by this, but on balance, I think we've got a law and order epidemic in this country. We've got particularly sexual offences in particular are going through the roof. You think about with Notting Hill Carnival's coming up soon, that will be a complete crime free-for-all. And I think if this is going to be... Do you think how important DNA has been in battle against crime? If this is going to make the job of a copper easier and more effective and quicker, and if it means we can get more horrible, bad people off our streets, so be it. I appreciate the civil liberties argument, but what should we prioritise? Law and order and our safety.
Well, we're joined now by retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Mike, good morning. What's your response to this? Is this a necessary weapon in the police's tactics against crime?
Well, my expertise is catching criminals with images from CCTV. I caught thousands of criminals and set up the Central Forensic Image Team at Scotland Yard. It's all very well, this live facial recognition, but it brings all the political arguments and civil liberties arguments you say. And the Metropolitan Police say they've had 500 arrests in a year. At the same time, there was 500,000 crimes. So it's no bad thing if it's being used for the most serious offences. Where the police fail is there are millions of images, well, hundreds of thousands of images of people actually committing crime where they've been shoplifting or committing more serious crimes like rape, robbery and murder, and they're hardly ever identified. The identification rate of somebody caught on camera is about less than 10%. So we've invested billions of pounds in CCTV, we've caught all these images, and the police are not identifying these people who are actually caught on camera committing crime. The other thing with live facial recognition, there's an attitude that we've got the machine and any officer should be able to sit in that van and say, because what happens is it comes up with like it's one of these 10 people. It doesn't come up like this is exactly the same person. And they don't select the right people to do that. I selected and trained what they call human super recognisers, and academics have told the police these are the people who should be in that van deciding if it's the right person. The Metropolitan Police, for example, is currently being taken to the High Court by a black guy who was stopped at London Bridge, and it wasn't him. So then if they're going to use this live facial recognition, one, they need to select the right people to operate it, and secondly, they'd be far better focusing on the hundreds of thousands of images they already have of people actually committing crime and getting them identified.
I appreciate they will get it wrong sometimes here, Mike, but then the police get things wrong when they're not using facial recognition too. Isn't that a price we have to pay sometimes, or the cops have to pay sometimes, in the fight against crime?
You can get it wrong, but if you get it wrong and you've ignored academic research, for example, if the academics are telling you, look, you've got to select the right people to operate these systems, so you pick them out, and then you just say randomly any officer will do. The analogy I draw is this: when I was in the army, if somebody bought a sniper rifle, they didn't give it to any soldier, they gave it to the soldier who was a naturally best shot. And so if you're going to use this equipment, then you use the officers who are naturally very good at spotting faces. So yes, mistakes will be made, but if the police don't take all the advice that will water down the amount of mistakes, then they're very, very stupid. And too often, as with CCTV, they buy machines and they think that's the solution. They don't put in the people to operate them and the processes to make sure that it produces the right results.
Now, Mike, there's another policing story in the news today. The Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner for Thames Valley Police, Matthew Barber, has called on the public to step in when they see shoplifters in action, and actually said that it's everybody's responsibility to crack down on these kind of crimes. What do you say to that?
Well, it's a very difficult thing, isn't it? Because we've just had somebody charged, for example, or arrested because they detained a shoplifter and the shoplifter died. Where's the protections if you have this what they call have a go hero takes some part in arresting the person? What people see is brazen shoplifting by often young men who have they got a knife, have they got a needle, what they're going to do with it. And again, I've spoken to this police and crime commissioner, and his force, again, has thousands of images of shoplifters that have been caught on camera, and they have no system to identify them. So they could target prolific shoplifters very, very simply without asking members of the public to go headlocking people and putting their arms up their back.
So are you disagreeing with this, Commissioner Mike, that actually you shouldn't be a have-a-go hero because you don't know what the consequences are going to be?
See, I would step in, Andrew. If somebody was, if said there was a lady behind the counter and she was being attacked, or a man behind the counter, I would step in if I thought somebody was going to be physically hurt. But if somebody's going to grab hold of shopping and run out and that's all they're doing, what does a member of the public know? That person could be a drug addict, they could be a violent criminal, they could end up being stabbed or something more serious. And so I just think it's a very stupid thing to tell the public to do that. Yes, we can intervene. The members of the public, we all have a right to arrest somebody who's committed an offence, but we've got to balance this against the dangers of it. And the Thames Valley Police, as I've said, they could target their prolific shoplifters in a far better way, but they're simply not doing it.
Well, former Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville, thank you very much for your time this morning. We've got lots more policing stories today.
Interesting, isn't it? Because the Civil Liberties Brigade will be in full cry about the police cameras.
The cameras,
yeah. They will be.
It's a very difficult one.
Now, up next, we're going to try and get to the bottom of why 1 million people, 1 million, have been signed off work indefinitely since Labour came to power. And they only came to power in July last year. Is this more evidence we're living in soft-touch benefits Britain?
But first of all, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
Across some southern parts of Europe tomorrow, there will be some showery rain, which could turn heavy and perhaps even thundery. But a big talking point is still the exceptional heat affecting parts of Portugal, Spain and France. Yesterday, temperatures were in the low to mid-40s in some places. The heat's going to ease a little, but it's going to return again as we go towards the weekend. Further east, some heavy showery rain, like I mentioned, could be a bit thundery at times, particularly across parts of Italy. Elsewhere, it's looking fine and sunny for many through the outlook.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Dan was one of the victims of the attack, and he was just, within touching distance from the leading suicide bomber. And when that bomb went off, it killed 6 people.
It's still really surreal. It's still a kind of strange thought to realise that I was right in the middle of what happened that day. And even though it's 20 years, it still feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
The pain and the emotional torment that goes with that is just as fresh now as when it just happened.
Mm. And when you think back to that morning, because you've written a book about that day and your experience since, you actually were considering not going into work that day.
Yeah, my whole story of 7/7 is what I kind of term as sliding door moments. There's so many opportunities that were presented to me to do something different, or to stick to my normal routine and not step outside of that. And yeah, there's countless times where if I would have made a different decision, then I wouldn't have been on that train at that time. If I'd have got up on time, if I hadn't missed my stop, there's so many things that I can think back on and think, if only I've done this, if only I've done that. But it serves no purpose now because what's happened has happened.
You were horrendously injured, but people died on that bus that day.
Yeah, I mean, from the area of the train that I was on when the bomb went off, I'm the only one that survived. He killed everybody around me. And that's incredibly tough to live with, to know that you survived something that everybody around you didn't. And I was pretty much laying in and amongst dead bodies and body parts for about an hour and 40 minutes before I was taken out the tunnel.
And what do you remember about the murderer?
I think the most terrifying thing about it is just how calm he was. There was no fear, there was no hesitation, and the most scariest thing of all was he just looked like everybody else.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
So we talked about this earlier, but Labour has parked over 1 million working-age Britons on benefits, and here's the rub. There is no requirement to look for work at all. That's it, which is pushing nearly half of universal credit claimants into this category.
Well, the government said it was to be expected that the number of people claiming universal credit with no requirement to work would increase as they're moved from the legacy benefits to the new universal credit system. Well, we're joined now by the Policy Director at the Centre for Social Justice, Jo Shallam. Jo, good morning. These are astonishing figures. What's going on? Why are so many more people being able to not work and claim benefits?
I agree. I mean, I think this is genuinely the most pressing social and economic problem facing Britain. And since just last year, we've seen the population the size of Birmingham moving on to the benefit system. And now a big part of this will be claimants moving from legacy benefits onto the universal credit system. But we've also seen a huge rise in long-term sickness benefit claims. This is terrible for the economy, of course. It's a crater in our labour force, people who could be working, many of whom say they would like to work with the right support. It's obviously hugely costly to taxpayers. Sickness and disability benefits alone are set to hit about £100 billion by the end of the Parliament. But, you know, at the CSJ, we really care about this at the individual level too. Just think about all these people missing out on the benefits that come with a stable job, both for themselves and for their families.
What is the issue with these million people in particular, Jo? So you say they've gone from legacy benefits. Can you explain what that is and why there is now no requirement for them to look for work when they are still relatively young?
So there's a few things going on here, and I appreciate that the benefit system is always a slightly labyrinthine conversation. So a small chunk will be moving from older benefits, things like employment and support allowance, and coming onto universal credit, which is the newer benefit system. But there are other sort of deeper drivers as to why we're seeing this increase in those categorised as no work requirements. A big part of that is perverse incentives that have crept into the system over the last few years. We've seen a situation now where you can essentially double your benefit award if you are signed off as unfit for work due to conditions like anxiety or depression. And indeed, that award rises even higher once you combine other benefits into the picture, like personal independence payment. We've also seen a cooling of the labour market at both the top and the bottom ends of the labour market. So we're seeing more older workers retiring early. As the state pension age has risen over the years, people are coming onto benefits before they go on to the pension. So we're seeing an increase there. But we're also seeing far too many young people essentially graduating from school straight as a conveyor belt onto a life on these benefits for some of those mental health conditions I mentioned earlier as well. And then thirdly, I mentioned this factor, and I think it's a really important driver, is immigration. So we are seeing now reflection in our welfare system of the high levels of migration we've had over the last few years. 1 in 6 on UC are non-UK citizens, and many, many more are set to move on to the benefit system in the years to come.
Now, Jo, we're running out of time, so just really quickly, what's the answer? What reforms should the government make to turn this around?
So ministers have made a good start. They've got the right idea on the perverse incentives in the system, but we saw the U-turn and the sort of botched operation on this a few months ago. They need to take welfare reform out of the too difficult box and start a big conversation about the future of support for mental health within the system, which is spiralling way out of control.
OK. And just finally, Joe, what's the point of raising the state pension age to try and reduce the public bill if people are just going to go on to benefits when they're 62, 63 and never work again? What's the point?
I think this does raise serious questions about the kind of interventions that are needed alongside the state pension age rising to give people the support. You know, we're losing a huge amount of wisdom, talent, expertise from the labour market when with the right help, with the right workplace adjustments, people in their older years could stay in work and indeed maintain all of the health.
I'm so sorry we are
benefits
out of
from it.
time, but we will have to have you back on. Thank you so much. Here's your weather.
Those figures are shocking.
They are.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many, it is going to be another hot day, but with that, there is the risk of some showers, and some of these could turn heavy and thundery in a few places too. But starting off, and actually at the moment, there's a fair bit of cloud across parts of Wales, southern southwestern England, but a lot of this is going to burn away, and so increasing amounts of sunshine here, and for many, through the afternoon, it is a fine sunny picture. That being said, a few showers will be starting to develop, particularly across parts of Scotland, maybe in the far southeast as well. It is going to be hot again in the sunshine, though the highest temperatures will be confined to more eastern parts where we're looking at highs in the low, possibly mid-30s for some. Then as we go through into this evening, we are going to see a few more showery bursts pushing their way in across parts of the southeast. A bit more cloud here, 1 or 2 showers also possible across parts of the southwest, but otherwise lots of dry weather, lots of clear weather across England and Wales. Patchy cloud for Northern Ireland. Across Scotland, a few scattered showers, and these showers are likely to turn a bit more intense, a bit heavier as we go through the rest of the evening and overnight. There's a reasonable chance that we could see some thundery downpours, which could cause a few isolated issues. Otherwise, and a few other showery bursts are possible, particularly around some coastal spots. But for many, it's going to be a dry night, and there will be some clear skies. But temperatures are going to hold up. The high humidity means it's going to be another warm, sticky night for most of us, and there could even be a few pockets of mist and fog in a few places as well. Then through tomorrow, the biggest talking point will be the heavy, perhaps thundery downpours that are likely to develop, particularly across northern parts of Scotland. These could cause some issues as we go through Thursday. Elsewhere, a few showery bursts across some parts of Northern Ireland, England and Wales, but towards the southeast, staying dry and often sunny here. And when you get the sunshine, it is again going to feel pretty hot. Temperatures peaking tomorrow in the high 20s. We may just about scrape to 30 Celsius, so not quite as hot as it has been recently.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Watch out at the Crossroads junction with Gallows Lane on the A985 due to a collision. In South Wales, the M4 eastbound is closed from junction 46 to 45 for structural inspections with diversions in place. In Derbyshire, the A50 eastbound faces congestion between the A6 and junction 24A of the M1. In Hampshire, a broken-down vehicle impacts the M27 eastbound, closing one of 4 lanes between junction 8 and 9. And on the trains, disruptions continue on Chiltern Railways between London Marylebone and West Ruislip, and on cross-country between Peterborough and Leicester. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Wednesday, the 13th of August. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Are we living in surveillance Britain?
We need to make sure that we can use the new technology to make sure we can catch the most wanted criminals, dangerous offenders, but also that there are proper safeguards in place.
So 10 facial recognition vans have been deployed by the police across Britain to hunt for criminals. But some say, and do you agree, this is a breach of your privacy?
If you've got someone in your store now stealing from you, call 999. Also, ideally, try and stop them leaving. You know, don't just stand there and watch, which a lot of people do, which frustrates me.
Well, that's the Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner who says he wants the public to stand up to shoplifters. And if you don't want to risk it, that's Matthew Barber. He says you are part of the problem.
So I'm now on my way this evening over to the Calais area to find out a bit more about what's going on, what, if anything, are the French doing to stop this, and what the migrants themselves up to.
So 2 British shadow ministers from the Tories, Chris Philp and Robert Jenrick, are heading to France to check out the people smugglers and migrant camps. How will the French authorities respond? Are they just really competing with each other?
That's right. It's the race to northern France for senior Tories to try and uncover the issue of the migrant gangs. But is this helping or hindering government attempts to smash the gangs?
Well, speaking of those gangs, more than 2,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel illegally since that one-in, one-out deal with France was implemented.
And a 25-year-old English backpacker has pleaded guilty after fatally crashing into a father of 2 while riding an e-scooter under the influence of alcohol in Australia. We're going to be joined live by her lawyer.
And call me Mix. Well, non-binary teachers have the right, apparently, to ask pupils to no longer them address as Miss or Mr. This is as the Education Secretary says that gender guidance for schools is still being worked on.
I think, teachers can make that request, but of course what we'll be looking at is making sure that people are able to exercise their views on this topic too.
Hello, you're through to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. This is Andrew speaking. How can I help? Schools are giving teenagers lessons. Can you believe this, in how to speak on the phone to the university clearing system ahead of A-level results tomorrow? For God's sake.
At least you didn't put us on hold.
What have we done to our kids? Why can't they communicate? Why can't they just hold a normal conversation? Can your teenagers, you pick up a phone?
They can, absolutely, but I think you're being a bit harsh. Kids have lots of skills these days, but one thing they haven't learned is how to use the phone.
No, one thing they haven't learned is how to talk to each other, because they don't talk, they don't have conversations with them. They're on their phones, they're on their gadgets, on their devices, and dare I say, some mums and dads don't make it any easier because they communicate in the home, don't they? By text.
Yeah, occasionally it can be useful.
Don't they, Miriam?
Just need a bell. That's going to be my answer. But I think there's a serious point here. We do teach our children lots of skills, but perhaps this was something that was gained automatically in previous times, and now we've got to be a lot more intentional about teaching kids to have those conversations.
University, aren't they going to have to learn how to talk to their lecturer?
Yeah, but so many universities, they teach
and
online.
Their tutorials.
Yeah, no, it is. Just take the phones away. I do agree. Anyway, we'd love to know what you think, so do send your views and comments to gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just after 10 o'clock. Well, the top story, live facial recognition is being rolled out across England and Wales as part of a major overhaul of neighbourhood policing. 10 camera-equipped vans will be deployed in 7 police force areas to target sex offenders and suspects wanted for the most serious crimes. The Home Office says the algorithm has been independently tested and will only be used in specific circumstances with robust oversight. Privacy campaigners have raised concerns, though, but police chiefs insist the technology is used ethically and has already helped locate thousands of offenders. Meanwhile, police forces are also being encouraged to name the ethnicity and nationality of suspects in high-profile or sensitive investigations to counter misinformation. It's under immediate changes from the National Police Chiefs Council. The move, backed by ministers, follows incidents where a lack of detail fuelled false rumours, including the Southport murders that preceded riots across the country. Details will still be released at the discretion of individual forces with legal and ethical factors in mind, and immigration status checks will remain the Home Office's responsibility. Critics warn it could create unrealistic expectations for disclosure in every case. But the Policing Minister, Dame Deanna Johnson, says the guidance will bring greater transparency and public confidence.
I would really welcome the openness and transparency of giving that information about ethnicity and nationality at the point of charge. We will give names and addresses often at that point, but in these high-profile cases, it's absolutely right that that transparency is there and that the information is provided. In terms of asylum seekers and the status of any claim they're making, that in future, in cases, that will be looked at and that information could be made available. We're working through now how that would actually work.
The government has dropped proposals to use a former retail site in Hampshire town centre, ruling it unsuitable after more than 1,000 people joined an anti-immigration protest last week. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who called the site utterly inappropriate to house migrants, is due to address campaigners tonight. It will be the first time an MP has spoken at a protest over asylum accommodation. Meanwhile, in Essex, Epping Forest District Council is seeking a High Court injunction to block the Bell Hotel from housing asylum seekers, warning it risks further escalation in the community after months of demonstrations. European leaders are holding a joint call with Donald Trump today, urging him not to cut Ukraine out of peace talks with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky will join the German Chancellor and Sir Keir Starmer, among others, to press that a deal should not see any borders changed by force. Donald Trump has suggested swapping territories may be needed to end the war, but Kyiv warns that surrendering land would only invite future Russian attacks. Zelensky also says any agreement without Ukraine's involvement would be a dead decision. And Israeli airstrikes have hit Gaza for now a third day, with local officials reporting widespread destruction and difficulty reaching casualties. Israel's war cabinet has now approved plans to take control of Gaza City, saying that it's targeting remaining Hamas strongholds. The IDF has described the situation as the beginning of a new state of combat. Meanwhile, the UK, EU, Australia, Canada and Japan are all warning of famine in Gaza and calling for immediate steps to improve aid access to the region. That is the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in around half an hour's time. Now, though, it's over to, it's called, yes, Britain's Newsroom.
Hello, it's 8 minutes past 10. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And lots of people have been getting in touch about these incredible benefits numbers.
Shocking.
Yeah, 1 million new claimants.
And they don't have to work again. They don't have to look for work. And most of them are between the age of 55 and 60.
Yes, a huge increase in that age group, and lots of people
so good long
making
working
the link.
years ahead of them.
That's right. And people making the link, though, between the raising of the pension age and so some people feeling they can't make it to 66, 67. Interesting view. But this interesting one from Richard Hill, because he says universal benefits are putting all the welfare fiddles in one box and showing how bad it has become. I think that's true. This is what our guest Joe Sharlan was saying, that actually people are being moved off legacy benefits, and that's revealing, because universal credit is so much more transparent, that's revealing the scale of the problem. So actually some of this has been going on a long time. It's just that being on universal credit has made it obvious.
He also said, didn't he, the guy from the
CSJ.
The CSJ, Centre for Social Justice, that a lot of the people had issues with anxiety, depression. Really?
And I think they're the only developed country that treats mental illness the same as physical when it comes to benefits, which is daft.
Go to work, it'll help you with your anxiety issues, it'll help you with your mental health issues. You get a routine, you get money in your pocket, gets you out the house, it gives you something to do. Don't sit at home and mither.
Yeah, and we need to go back to...
And also, some of them, I'm sorry, are malingering.
Yeah. Well, before the pandemic, you had to have a face-to-face appointment.
You did.
To prove, and now you don't, and I think that was a big mistake. Anyway, another big mistake. There seems to be no end in sight to Britain's migration crisis as more and more people cross the Channel every single day.
It's not the government's fault, though. You heard Jackie Smith, the Minister, yesterday. It's not this government's fault.
Well, it has been going on a while.
Right. So the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has gone to Calais, posting this from a French beach this morning.
No sign of any French police presence on this beach. Obviously, you can see from the place I'm standing, you can have a good view over the entire beach. You could spot any embarkations, but I don't see any French police here at all, keeping an eye on this particular beach.
Well, Chris Philp is not the only one, because Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick has also headed over to France. Yes, he has since gone on X to tease a video of his experience over in France that we will be sharing soon, and he's claiming that the French are aiding and abetting small boat migrants. But they weren't the first. It wouldn't have happened without our very own Patrick Christie's visiting camps and smugglers in Calais.
Our Prime Minister says that he might deport you. Are you not worried about that?
We don't need anything.
Okay.
Just leave us alone.
Okay.
We had a lot of problems.
You've had some problems? Yes. What kind of problems?
Don't.
Well, to discuss these very interesting videos...
By the way, when Chris Philp says he's got this great view of the beach, I'm just checking, it's a 50-mile stretch of Normandy coast.
Wow.
So he's got a small, limited view of part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not
50
making
miles is quite a long beach, though.
I'm not making any allowances for the French, because they don't give a hoot about but it is 50 miles of coast, and that is a lot.
It is. It's a lot to police. Well, joining us now in the studio, we've got Christopher Hope, our political editor. What do you make of this competitive attempt?
Yes. Leadership manoeuvres.
Well, it's the race to northern France, isn't it?
I mean, Tory leader, isn't it?
By hook, crook or small boat, they'll get there, it seems. I mean, you've got, Chris Philp. He's also will be in northern France, where we're seeing evidence of what he's finding out there. Robert Jenrick, we're waiting for his film to drop.
Remind me, his brief is Shadow Justice Secretary, so he's in charge of
Jenrick.
policy, prisons.
Yeah.
Chris Philp is Shadow Secretary in charge of the migrants.
I think if you were trying to referee these two men, you'd think that Chris Philp has a right to be there more than Robert Jenrick, because he's a shadow Home Secretary and he's shadowing the department whose job is to try and smash the gangs, aka stop the boats, whatever language you choose on this. We're waiting to see, though, what comes out from that. Yeah, I think it's, he's filming an empty beach there early in the morning, and it's a long beach. I mean, the problem is the border is so long. We've given hundreds of millions of pounds to the French. They've slashed one boat so far for the cameras.
Just before Macron came here.
Of course. I mean, it looks performative. But
I suppose the point of this, though, is obviously to get some attention, which, when you're in opposition, is easier said than done.
And we're now talking about it.
And we're now talking about it, but it is to raise the public pressure on the government to do something about this. And constant videos, constant news hits that are getting traction are putting pressure on the government.
Well, it has worked before for Robert Jenrick. When he raised concerns about alleged fare dodging on the London Underground, there was anecdotal evidence of more signs going up, more a crackdown on fare dodging. We've seen our own Tom Harwood go onto tubes and try and get rid of the graffiti. This will, I think, probably be a bit annoying for the government. We asked Dame Diana Johnson about this on the Breakfast Show this morning, and she said we welcome anyone going to the beaches. I think Lee Anderson went when he's on the Home Affairs Committee, didn't he, in the last Parliament. I was wondering what you felt, Miriam, about this as a former Conservative MP. Is it just boys battling for headlines, or is it quite a good thing?
I think it's a good thing. I mean, it is a kind of more masculine, activist kind of politics, but to be honest, I think it's what we need. People complain that politicians don't get out and about enough, that Parliament's too remote. And I think, especially in opposition, where you don't have the levers to change the law and do things like that, this is a good way of highlighting problems.
But the big news out today from the government is not from the government as much as the police forces. They have said they are now going to identify the name and ethnicity, and nationality and ethnicity of anyone charged. Previously, only names and addresses. There's been high-profile cases around the country when there's been reports that you've got asylum seekers involved. And earlier we spoke to Dame Diana Johnson. She's one of the senior Home Office ministers, and she went further and said in some cases they will now also look at releasing the immigration status. So it's developing, I think, and this is responding to concerns raised by GB News. And here's what she told Breakfast earlier.
I would really welcome the openness and transparency of giving that information about ethnicity and nationality at the point of charge. We will give names and addresses often at that point, but in these high-profile cases, it's absolutely right that that transparency is there and that the information is provided. In terms of asylum seekers and the status of any claim they're making, that in future, in cases, that will be looked at and that information could be made available. We're working through now how that would actually work.
So I think welcome news there from Dame Diana Johnson. One word of warning, she said they're high-profile cases. Now, that means they won't release this information in all cases. And, of course, a case only becomes high-profile when people sense a cover-up. So it might be a kind of chicken and egg situation where the police won't release it until forced to under pressure, and that will create concern out there.
And it's very much going to remain an operational decision for the specific police force at the time. It won't be a minister
43
getting
forces
on the phone saying, get that name out.
And don't forget, I remember vividly, when you FOI police forces, 43, only 30 ever reply. And that's been the case since I was doing Home Affairs with you, Andrew, back at the Telegraph and the noughties. A lot of forces just ignore what we say to them as journalists, and that is part of the problem.
Difficult to get the information. Thank you very much, Chris. Well, sticking with the small boat theme, of course, over 2,000 small boat migrants have now crossed the Channel illegally since the one-in, one-out deal with France was implemented.
Why do we even call it one in, one out? Because it's one out, thousands in. Let's talk to Home
Secretary. People go on holiday to France.
Yeah, our Home Secretary Editor Mark White joining us live from Dover. Mark, so much for the powerful deterrent, this new deal signed by Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, announcing that blaze of publicity last week. They told us that some migrants had been detained under the new legislation, Mark. We don't know how many. We assume they're still here. As we speak, migrants are crossing the Channel.
Yeah, they are still here because it's going to take a few weeks before they can be transferred to France. France has got 2 weeks to respond to the UK government, with the possibility, of course, that they may reject some or all of those that the UK has earmarked for return to France. And it's only going to be a small number. We know that because even the government admits that the numbers, to begin with at least, will be modest. But measure that against the fact that more than 2,000 have crossed since that deal was signed. In fact, if you add today's number, there are actually 2,160 have crossed since that deal was signed with the French government. Today already, 160 in. Defender, the border force catamaran, arrived about an hour ago with another boatload of 60 odd. And then overnight, another boatload came into Dover Harbour. And as we speak, our producer telling us that there is another small boat under escort from the French nearing UK waters. So within the next half an hour or so, it'll be picked up by Border Force in the now routine procedure to take it back here to the UK. And in the next hour, I'll also have some breaking news, a significant development, another grim record that has been broken. Can't go into it yet, but it really is a worrying development as far as the authorities here are concerned, as they continue to try to do their best to stop this continued, and it seems inevitable, flow across the channel.
Well, we look forward to that. Is that going to break in the next hour and a half, hour and 3/4, Mark?
We'll break it at the top of the 11.
We look forward to it. Mark White, always Mr. Exclusive. He has many of them.
Breaking story every day.
Good to talk to you. Now, this is your chance to be our next winner with your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year, plus £5,000 tax-free cash. Here's all the details you're going to need.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up next, the Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner says that the public must tackle shoplifters. It's not just a job for the police. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, the National Memorial to Queen Elizabeth II will include a new bridge in St James's Park, designed by Norman Foster.
Yes, the translucent bridge will be inspired by the tiara the Queen wore on her wedding day.
But let's get more now from St James's Park with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, what's the memorial going to be like?
Good afternoon, Tom and Emily. Yes, the wait is finally over. We have the final design from the renowned architect Lord Foster, who famously once criticised the King for his views on architecture. But of course, today it's all about honouring Queen Elizabeth II and her legacy. On that theme, at Marlborough Gate, which is the big gate you see behind me, which overlooks the Mall, that's going to be renamed Queen Elizabeth II Place. And there is, according to the artist impression, going to be a big statue of Queen Elizabeth II riding a horse overlooking the Mall. Of course, incredibly poignant because she had a deep love of all things equine. Incredibly poignant, of course, as well, significant love between Prince Philip and the late Queen. It's going to apparently, according to the architect, or hinted by the architect, light up at night as well, which is meant to symbolise all the diamonds that were part of that tiara. And the Queen famously also gave it to her granddaughter, loaned it to her granddaughter, Princess Beatrice, for her wedding in 2020. And then we come to the final part of St James's Park's Queen Elizabeth II's memorial, and that is going to be right here at the other end of the park, overlooking Birdcage Walk, going to be renamed Prince Philip Gate, because a new statue of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip is going to be erected at the other side of St James's Park. It's meant to be them, according to the artist's impressions, in their younger years.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here, and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
The panel's here. Yeah. It's Statler and Waldorf themselves, Mike Parry and Stephen Pound. There they are. Which one is Statler and which one is Waldorf, by the way?
The good-looking one is Statler.
OK.
That means I'm the good-looking one.
We don't want to argue about this before we even get started on the paper as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, chaps, for joining us.
Well, I'm going to ask you, would you intervene if a 6'2" shoplifter was nicking stuff from your local shop? Would you intervene?
Come on.
Of course he would.
100%. Yeah, because no. Look,
all right, a 5'4" shoplifter.
Yeah. Well, it depends, whether she was actually muscular or not. But I mean, in all honesty, the idea that the police have abrogated all responsibility for dealing with shoplifting, we're simply not going to deal with it. And it's one thing to say that we're not going to deal with it; we're going to sort of downgrade it. Another thing to say that Joe and Jane Public should be getting stuck in. Listen, some of these scroats have got knives on them.
They do.
Yeah. Do we really? When somebody's trying to... I mean, I saw it the other day. Somebody jumped across the counter to try to get at the fags one. Yeah. And I must admit, I went and stood by the door because hopefully, the idea is that, you can stock the door. But when they came at me, I thought, no, forget it.
This guy's off his rocker.
The commissioner.
The commissioner is completely off his rocker for a number of reasons. Firstly, as Steve has just pointed out, a lot of shoplifters are doing it to feed their drug habit.
Yeah.
So they're completely out of control. They might be carrying a weapon. But secondly, how often have we seen members of the public actually being investigated by the police for trying to apprehend a shoplifter?
They'll get done for assault.
They'll get done for assault.
Well, this happened on the Elizabeth line the other day. This chap dropped his trousers.
That's right.
Dropped his shorts.
In front of children.
And in front of children and started waving the old meat and two veg about. And then a number of people there, jumped on him, held him down, covered him up, and got charged.
No, they haven't. I'll tell you what's happened.
So they got cautioned.
Their pictures have been put online, and the police are searching for the 4 people who apprehended this man to ask them questions pending an investigation into an assault.
I'd like to identify them and give them a medal.
Quite right. Now, the other thing here, I can't remember the name of a junior minister who last week, I couldn't believe it, I was watching it on an interview on this station, actually said, well, of course, one of the reasons why we're having to put taxes up is to crack down on shoplifting. And I had to listen again. I'll find the guy's name and tell you in our next session here on this morning show. He actually said that. And I thought, do you know what? Some of these Labour people are so out of touch, they live on Mars. It's like the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, telling us, no, there's plenty of houses in this country for asylum seekers. It's like they're living on another planet. Do you really believe that either A, Labour crack down on shoplifters, or B, they tell the police? We know in this country up to £200 of goods taken out of your shop is not a crime.
But Mike,
it's not a
you
crime.
know, 20,000 less police officers under the Conservatives. That's one of the reasons we've got it. But this comes down to a really...
Yeah, but Boris brought them all back. You keep
no, he
forgetting to say that.
He did not.
I'm sorry, I'm saying he did.
Between 2010 and 2020.
You lot were going to provide an addition. They have been replaced, but you lot were going to provide an additional 13,000. They're not arriving any time soon, and most of them are not even full-time police
But
officers
isn't the point
either.
that the Police and Crime Commissioner is trying to make is that antisocial behaviour, if you like, and low-level crime is actually a responsibility of everybody in society.
This is not low-level, in my view.
No, well, I agree, but it starts like this, doesn't it?
Miriam.
If there's no barriers to people committing crimes like this, they go on to commit bigger crimes.
No, these aren't big crimes. Some shoplifters are nicking handbags worth £2,500. So what's the definition of a shop?
Look, the police are civilians in uniform. Basically, the same as us, just happen to be wearing a uniform. You have to have an active citizenry. The whole point of Neighbourhood Watch was to provide eyes and ears for the police. That is excellent. We all, most of us do that, and I think we can. What we will not do is tackle some geezer with a machete down his stride.
Exactly. But also, Stephen, this police commissioner is asking the public to do the police's job. That's the point. Now, supposing you were, Stephen, you're a man who's been in the Royal Navy, you love your country, you're passing a bank, and all of a sudden a bank robber comes out with a sawn-off shotgun, and according to this police commissioner, you should assist the police in how they go about their work. Would you tackle the man with the sawn-off shotgun and tell him to return that £50,000 back to NatWest Bank from where he's nicked it?
They trained us for many things in the Andrew, but I don't remember them training us for that. But look, comes back to the old point. Do you remember that thing about Bobby's on the beat? One of the great cliches of all time. You talk to any police officer, they say the last thing we actually look to crush crime is police officers on the street. It doesn't work. However,
it does.
The reality,
I don't agree with that.
And you know why? Because they base it on statistics. The point is that very often a police officer on the street is a deterrent. Deterrents don't appear in the statistics. Therefore, you have a police officer walking up and down the street. Things are stopping crime.
But that's a really important part of the fight against crime.
Of course,
deterrence.
100%.
You see a copper in the community that's going to put someone off going in that shop and burgling. That's why we do need bobbies on the beat.
Of course we do.
It also gives confidence to the police. I mean, I genuinely, when I see two police officers, they always walk in twos around my way. Two police officers walking down.
But isn't part of the problem that we've had this kind of breakdown of society where people no longer think it is any of their business to get involved with what's happening socially. You won't challenge someone. That's right. Like on the tube, for example, you could say to somebody else, will you please turn your music down? But most people prefer not to and just put their head in their own phone. And if everybody made the decision at the same time to challenge that kind of antisocial behaviour, we would see an impact.
Miriam, also, as we've already discussed, the problem is in this country, if you do anything against another person, even if they're even if they're in the process of committing a crime, you suddenly become the villain. It's an outrage. And the other thing about police on the streets is, right, first of all, if a guy's grabbed a load of stuff from the co-op, which seems to suffer particularly badly because they've got open plan stores, and he runs out into the street and runs off down the road, if there was a policeman on that pavement, A, he'd think again about grabbing all that stuff, but B, wouldn't it indicate that what we do in this country is we apprehend criminals and put them in court? These guys never appear in court. They know they can do it.
Can I just say, one of the many things that breaks my heart is that you go around my borough of Ealing and you will see 6 former police stations there, locked up, ivy growing around them, budleia growing in between the cracks. And there's one police station in the whole of the borough of Ealing, 350,000 people, and none in Kingston, none in Richmond.
But this is valuable real estate. Why is it not being utilised? Why is it not being brought into another community use or sold and raise the money to get more cops?
I totally agree.
I mean, if you look at Hanwell, Southall, Norwood Green...
It's a shocking indictment of the Mayor of London, I'm afraid.
Well, I suppose he's the police commissioner.
He's the police commissioner for London. Because there's a huge one in Northumberland. It's been empty for 15 years. It is enormous.
Of course it is.
The other day.
Shouldn't somebody send the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, a videotape of the President of the United States of America saying in front of the world yesterday, I'm going to clean up Washington? Can you ever see Sadiq Khan coming out saying, I'm going to clean up London? He doesn't want to clean up London. It affects too many people who vote for him.
I'm just trying to think, the Durham Light Infantry are told to stand down and actually present themselves in West London to actually start shooting people. I'm sorry, they have the National Guard in America. They also have a president who sometimes does sound slightly eccentric.
I'm sorry, I think what he said went down very, very well with people in Washington, where the homicide rate is very, very high.
Which has been declining for the last 3 years.
But he wants it to decline a bit more. Make it decline a bit more.
Still very, very high, believe me.
Wrap for now. We'll come back to this in an hour or so. But
we're going to fetch the army in to separate us.
Yeah, good idea.
While these chaps
You're
continue
gonna
the
need some
discussion,
help.
we've got your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Yeah.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom just after 10:30. Plans to house asylum seekers in a Hampshire town centre have been dropped after the site was deemed unsuitable. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who called the premises utterly inappropriate, will speak tonight at a protest saying the invasion must end. Live facial recognition is expanding across England and Wales with 10 vans in 7 forces. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says they'll target people wanted for the most serious crimes. In a move to boost transparency, meanwhile, police may now release suspects' ethnicity and nationality in high-profile cases. Policing Minister Dame Deanna Johnson says it would happen in most cases, aiming to cut misinformation. President Volodymyr Zelensky is joining European leaders today ahead of Trump's summit with Putin in Alaska. He's warning any deal without Ukraine would be dead decisions. Germany, the UK and other allies are pressing the US to keep Ukraine fully involved. And wildfires are sweeping across southern Europe, forcing thousands from their homes. Red heat health alerts are in place across Italy, France, Spain and Portugal, with temperatures well above 40 degrees. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Up next, big interview coming up. We're going to be talking to the lawyer representing a 25-year-old English backpacker who's pleaded guilty after fatally crashing into a father of 2 while riding an e-scooter under the influence of alcohol in Australia. She's facing up to 20 years in jail. This is Britain's This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here, and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Hello again, I'm here with your latest GB News weather update, coming to you from the Met Office. For many, it is going to be another hot day, but with that, there is the risk of some showers, and some of these could turn heavy and thundery in a few places too. But starting off, and actually at the moment, there's a fair bit of cloud across parts of Wales, southern southwestern England, but a lot of this is going to burn away, and so increasing amounts of sunshine here, and for many, through the afternoon, it is a fine sunny picture. That being said, a few showers will be starting to develop, particularly across parts of Scotland, maybe in the far southeast as well. It is going to be hot again in the sunshine, though the highest temperatures will be confined to more eastern parts where we're looking at highs in the low, possibly mid-30s for some. Then as we go through into this evening, we are going to see a few more showery bursts pushing their way in across parts of the southeast. A bit more cloud here, 1 or 2 showers also possible across parts of the southwest, but otherwise lots of dry weather, lots of clear weather across England and Wales. Patchy cloud for Northern Ireland. Across Scotland, a few scattered showers, and these showers are likely to turn a bit more intense, a bit heavier as we go through the rest of the evening and overnight. There's a reasonable chance that we could see some thundery downpours, which could cause a few isolated issues. Otherwise, and a few other showery bursts are possible, particularly around some coastal spots. But for many, it's going to be a dry night, and there will be some clear skies. But temperatures are going to hold up. The high humidity means it's going to be another warm, sticky night for most of us, and there could even be a few pockets of mist and fog in a few places as well. Then through tomorrow, the biggest talking point will be the heavy, perhaps thundery downpours that are likely to develop, particularly across northern parts of Scotland. These could cause some issues as we go through Thursday. Elsewhere, a few showery bursts across some parts of Northern Ireland, England and Wales, but towards the southeast, staying dry and often sunny here. And when you get the sunshine, it is again going to feel pretty hot. Temperatures peaking tomorrow in the high 20s. We may just about scrape to 30 Celsius, so not quite as hot as it has been recently.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Ongoing disruptions are on the A720 eastbound at Baberton. The M4 is closed between junctions 46 at Langeflach and 45 at Innisforgan with diversions. In York, a vehicle fire on the A64 westbound between the A136 and A1237 has closed one lane, causing 30-minute delays. The northbound entry slip at junction 7 on the A1M is shut due to a vehicle fire, expected to ease later. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways face major disruptions between London Marylebone and West Ruislip, affecting Avanti West Coast between Manchester Piccadilly and Manchester Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's News on GB News.
Well, this is an extraordinary story. A British backpacker is facing up to 20 years in an Australian prison after admitting to killing a father of two while she was drunk in charge of an e-scooter.
Yes, this is 25-year-old Alicia Kemp, and she was more than 3 times the legal alcohol limit when she ploughed into Than Pan at speed after a 6-hour pub session in Perth.
His death, the death of that man, that father, has now reignited calls for a major crackdown on e-scooter laws. This is in Australia, including a ban on hiring them altogether. And of course, in our own country, here in Britain, the laws are all over the place. They vary from borough to borough. Let's talk to the defence lawyer for Alicia Kemp, Michael Tudori. Michael, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
This is a case that's galvanised much of Australian public opinion, and it's fair to say, I think, there's not much sympathy for the person who was driving that e-scooter. She was drunk, she had a passenger. I don't think she should have had a passenger with her either, and she was clearly incapable of controlling that e-scooter because she'd been driving it erratically before the collision.
Yes, look, it's one of these cases that it's a tragedy all round, obviously for the deceased and the deceased family. But of course, this poor girl was, out celebrating with friends, drinking, and they decided to hire a scooter to drive it to the next venue. Now, it's just unfortunate that, which of course, there's nothing wrong with hiring scooters. But unfortunately, she was quite drunk and driving down the footpath and collided with a pedestrian. So it's quite sad. She wasn't travelling at great speed. She was doing about 20 kilometres an hour on the scooter, which obviously still is at pace, but not as fast as anywhere compared to a car. And it's just a sad tragedy.
And she was driving on the pavement as well, I think, Michael, which was another breach of the law.
Well, no, in fact, the opposite. These scooters in the city can only be driven on the pedestrian pavement. They're not to be driven on the streets. If it's a bike lane, that's different. But where she was driving, she had hired the scooter on the same road that she had the collision. And these scooters are capped at 20 kilometres an hour. You can't go any faster on them. But of course, what doesn't help is the fact that they had been drinking. It's almost a sliding doors moment that pedestrian v scooter, and pedestrian fell to the ground.
Michael, I'm sure we can all feel sympathy with Alicia. She made a very stupid decision when she was under the influence of alcohol, and as a result of that could spend, I think, up to 20 years in jail, which, given her young age, is obviously an extreme tragedy for her life. But nevertheless, isn't the purpose of the law to discourage people from making these stupid decisions? And if the law isn't upheld, if she isn't punished, surely that's just carte blanche for other people to also make stupid decisions.
Oh, look, of course. And first, I want to be clear that the charge that she's been charged with is the same as if she was driving a motor vehicle. This was a scooter on the sidewalk or the pedestrian path. And look, Alicia's not asking to be let off. She's not asking to be given a slap on the wrist. She understands what she's done is very serious. And of course, she's incredibly remorseful. But this is a girl who's never been in trouble with the police before. When people are on holidays, they often don't think of the consequences. And she was over here in Australia on a working holiday. And it's just one of these very, very sad tragedies that we're not asking for her to be let off leniently. She expects to be punished. And the courts will do, I'm sure, the fair thing for both sides. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to 20 years. I mean, what can you do to try to mitigate in her favour, Michael, to try to persuade the courts that perhaps that's too long a sentence?
I mean, 20 years, of course, is the maximum penalty. I don't want to give an estimate as to what I think she'll ultimately get, but it'll be significantly less than that. But in terms of mitigating, she's a young 25-year-old that's never had any contact with the police before. There is a distinction between getting into a car, starting it and driving it, and having a motor vehicle accident and killing pedestrians or a driver of a car. There is a distinction. Of course, 20 kilometres an hour. I'm not too sure whether it equates to miles per hour, but 20 kilometres an hour, it's not terribly fast.
Now, Michael,
now, there are some other factors in this in terms of the poor man who was hit. Wasn't a particularly large thud when he went down, but of course there are some other complications that will come out in due course.
Now, I understand that this case has sparked discussion across Australia about e-scooters. There are lots of different laws in Europe. Different European cities have very different rules. I have to say, having experienced them on the pavement in some European cities, they do seem very dangerous as a pedestrian, even when people in control of them are not drunk. Could this change the law and the regulations in Australia on these e-scooters?
Well, what I can say is, first of all, certainly in Perth, it's definitely changed the laws here. Prior to this, we've had a numerous amount of electric scooter accidents where young children have hit other pedestrians or pavements or something, not wearing helmets, or the pedestrians can't hear them because they're electric, and especially on a pedestrian walk, there's no real sense of keep to the left, keep to the right. So there is a bit of anarchy when it comes to these scooters on the pavement. But what we have seen is a lot of councils and shires around the country are banning them. A lot of shires don't allow them ever. And as a result of this case, the Perth City Council, which is the major metropolitan council in Perth, they immediately revoked the licence for these scooters to be hired. But that's in terms of hiring them. There's nothing stopping a citizen riding their private scooter on the footpaths. And of course, a lot of cities are not designed to have bike paths or separate pedestrian walkways. It's in effect in front of shop fronts. So there's a lot to be changed, a lot to learn. But of course, I don't think we should be banning electric scooters or electric bikes. They're definitely a way of the future and way moving forward. But there's obviously a lot of regulations that need to come in.
Just finally, Michael, she's from Redditch in Worcestershire, which a lot of our listeners and viewers will know that part of the country. Is her family, will her family be there for the sentencing? And when she is jailed, because she's indeed going to face a prison sentence, what sort of prison will she be in?
Well, first of all, whether her family come over, that's still to be determined.
Right.
We don't have the exact sentencing date yet. Well, hopefully that will be before Christmas. She's entered an early plea, which means she's been committed to the Superior Court for sentencing. But in terms of where she is now, unfortunately, and look, it'd be the same if I was arrested in the UK, I'm sure, or a citizen. Not being from the host nation and for a serious charge, bail is not ordinarily granted. So she has been remanded in custody from the time of her arrest, which was the next day after this tragedy. And currently she's in a high security remand prison. And upon sentencing, she will probably still remain in that same prison, and then eventually move to a lower security prison. Unfortunately, in Western Australia, we don't have many female prisons, and they're a real mix between low and high security.
Fascinating.
But of course, this is a 25-year-old girl, young lady who, not knowing anybody except for her boyfriend that's out here, it'd be terrifying for her at the moment.
I'm just about to say, she must be pretty terrified being in this institution.
Oh, look, she is. When you're someone who's never been in trouble with the police before and you're remanded in custody or sentenced to jail, it's very tough. I'm not saying that for sympathy. It's just the way it is. Of course, this is a tragedy. They didn't think of the consequences. No. And often when you're drinking and you're thinking, look, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to grab a scooter instead of getting in my car and driving. And of course, that's the wrong way of thinking. But that is just how people think sometimes.
All right, Michael. Well, Michael Chidori, thank you so much for joining us. That's Michael Chidori, who's the defence lawyer for Alicia Kemp. She's 25 and she is going to be sentenced sometime before Christmas. And she's in a rough, tough female institution in Perth. Just remember, though, it's tragic for her, but the person who died was a father of 2 and he was aged 51.
I have mixed feelings about these scooters. They're incredibly useful, good for commuters, but they are dangerous. They're so fast.
And they're quiet. They're quiet. Exactly. And they're great for muggers because they can come up behind you and whack you.
Also true. Very heavy as well.
I'm pretty anti.
And sometimes they burst into flames, apparently.
They do. When people are charging them overnight in their halls.
I know.
I'm not a fan.
Well, moving on, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Across some southern parts of Europe tomorrow, there will be some showery rain, which could turn heavy and perhaps even thundery. But a big talking point is still the exceptional heat affecting parts of Portugal, Spain and France. Yesterday, temperatures were in the low to mid-40s in some places. The heat's going to ease a little, but it's going to return again as we go towards the weekend. Further east, some heavy showery rain, like I mentioned, could be a bit thundery at times, particularly across parts of Italy. Elsewhere, it's looking fine and sunny for many through the outlook.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, just like week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome. especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. 8 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, the Prime Minister will take part in a coalition of the willing, a series of European leaders today in conversation with about the Russia-Ukraine war.
Well, this is after joining a virtual call at midday with Ukraine's President Zelensky, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and US President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance.
One person missing from that, of course, later on in the day, when Trump has his meeting, no Zelensky. I mean, when he has his meeting on Friday with...
yes, in Alaska.
Yeah, so the Defence and Foreign Affairs editor of the Daily Telegraph, Con Cochrane, has written extensively about the war in Ukraine. Con, morning to you. Good to talk to you. Is this the British Prime Minister, the European leaders, just trying to show that they have some say in any of this? But do they really? Are they just spectators? Is this all going to be thrashed out between Trump and Putin in Alaska on Friday, Con?
Well, I think they're trying to justify their existence, Andrew. I think Trump's made it very clear that he wants to do a deal with Putin. As you said in your introduction, Zelensky's not to be at the table, and Trump doesn't want the Europeans there either. He thinks that they're lightweights, and frankly, after their performance on the Gaza issue, with Starmer and Macron and everybody recognising a Palestinian state that doesn't actually exist, I think Trump will think they're more of a liability than a help when he sits down with Putin and tries to sort out the Ukraine conflict.
Now, it seems that public opinion in Ukraine has moved substantially since the start of the war. Just a quarter of Ukrainians now want to fight Russia to the end, according to a poll. So perhaps there is room for manoeuvre for Zelensky. But on the other hand, why would Putin stop the war? He doesn't need to. He's still making gains. What's in it for him to negotiate a ceasefire?
Well, there's a very good point. I mean, the thing is, a lot of Ukrainians are suffering from war fatigue. There's no doubt about that. Nobody thought this war would still be going on 3.5 years later. And the Ukrainians, despite fighting very bravely, have taken significant casualties, around 100,000. The weapons supplies from the West are not what they were. The Russians have got superior manpower and are quite prepared to take significant casualties. I think the latest casualty figures were 1 million dead and injured. But, I mean, Putin does have a lot to lose if he carries on with this war, if Trump follows through on his threat with these secondary sanctions. One of the reasons that Putin can still fight in Ukraine is that countries like India and China are still buying Russian energy, keeping the Russian economy afloat and financing the war. Trump has said that, and the US Senate is saying, that they want to target these countries and put sanctions against them to stop them trading with Russia. I mean, figures of 500% to be mentioned, and if that happens, it's a big if, then that really would persuade them to stop trading with Russia. The Russian economy would collapse and Putin couldn't fight the war. So, there's a lot riding on this Alaska meeting for Putin.
And there's irony as well, isn't there, Colin, that the European leaders who are talking to him today, about Ukraine, they're still buying a lot of gas from Putin.
Yeah, I think they're buying more gas from Putin than they did before the war.
Yeah,
it's quite amazing that the Europeans have made all these public gestures and declarations of support, but have actually done very little. And actually the equation is they spent more buying Russian natural gas and oil and all the rest of it than they have giving money to Ukraine's war effort. So, I mean, the rank hypocrisy of Europe, plus the fact that they've got this away with the pharaohs attitude on geopolitics, like recognising Palestine, I think Trump simply thinks they're a liability.
Well, Con Coughlin from Daily Telegraph, thank you so much for your analysis.
It's spot on, isn't it? I mean, they're jaw-jawing and they've been buying Putin's gas, funding the war against Ukraine. It's nonsense.
We'll be back after the break.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, select week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 13th of August, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom, with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Now, we're reporting on some migrant mayhem because more than 2,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel illegally since the one-in, one-out deal with France was implemented. Our security editor will bring us some shocking breaking news from Dover shortly.
Well, we need to make sure that we can use the new technology to make sure we can catch the most wanted criminals, dangerous offenders, but also that there are proper safeguards in place.
Yes, 10 facial recognition vans have been deployed by police across Britain to hunt for criminals. But are we living in surveillance Britain?
If you've got someone in your store now stealing from you, call 999. Also, ideally, try and stop them leaving. Don't just stand there and watch, which a lot of people do, which frustrates me.
That's the Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner, who says the public should stand up and be counted with shoplifters. And if you don't want to risk it, Matthew Barber says you're part of the problem.
So I'm now on my way this evening over to the Calais area to find out a bit more about what's going on, what, if anything, are the French doing to stop this, and what the migrants themselves up to.
Yes, two British shadow ministers, Chris Philp and Robert Jenrick, head to France to check out the people smugglers and migrant camps. I think they've been getting their ideas from our very own Patrick.
Of course they have.
Little kids, babies. You would never believe it in all your life. Men or any nation would make people suffer like that.
Don't you love him? As we approach the anniversary of the Allies' victory over Japan at the end of the Second World War, GB News has spoken to a remarkable veteran who's been honoured with a royal visit from the Duchess of Edinburgh. You don't want to miss it.
And just call me Mix. Non-binary teachers have the right to ask pupils to no longer address them as Miss or Mr. The Education Secretary says that gender guidance for school is still a work in progress.
I think, teachers can make that request, but of course what we'll be looking at is making sure that people are able to exercise their views on this topic too.
Hello, you're through to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. This is Andrew speaking. How can I help?
Well, schools are giving teenagers lessons, and maybe Andrew as well, in how to speak on the phone to UCAS and university admissions teams ahead of their A-level results days.
Pathetic.
Now, we had that really fascinating interview, Andrew, with Alicia Kemp's lawyer. She, of course, has been charged with convicted of causing the death of a man when she was drunk on an e-scooter in Australia. But she's faces up to 20 years behind bars.
Yeah, he says it won't be that long, and he said it's a tragic case. But, of course, what's really tragic is drunk in charge of the e-bike, clattered into a father of two who's no longer with us.
We did make the point, should she be charged in the same way as if she'd got into a car?
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that is a good point.
It is, and it's caused a huge debate in Australia. We should have the same debate here. What do you think about these e-bikes? Because they are, to me, a wretched menace. That you can't hear them. They're on the pavements, they're on the road, they can go very fast, and they're also very handy if you're a mugger.
And there's nothing to stop children hiring them. They're not supposed to, but there's nothing to stop you. Well, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Miriam, Andrew, thank you very much, and good morning to you just after 11 o'clock. Well, live facial recognition is being rolled out across England and Wales, all as part of a major overhaul of neighbourhood policing. 10 camera-equipped vans will be deployed in 7 police force areas to target sex offenders and suspects wanted for the most serious crimes. The Home Office says the algorithm has been independently tested and will be only used in specific circumstances with robust oversight. Privacy campaigners have raised concerns, but police chiefs insist the technology is being used ethically. Meanwhile, police forces are also being encouraged to name the ethnicity and nationality of suspects in high-profile or sensitive investigations to counter misinformation. It's under immediate changes from the National Police Chiefs Council. The move, backed by ministers, follows incidents where a lack of detail fuelled false rumours. Details will still be released at the discretion of individual forces with legal and ethical factors in mind, and immigration status checks will remain the Home Office responsibility. Critics warn it could create unrealistic expectations for disclosure in every case. But Policing Minister Dame Deanna Johnson says the guidance will bring greater public confidence.
I would really welcome the openness and transparency of giving that information about ethnicity and nationality at the point of charge. We will give names and addresses often at that point, but in these high-profile cases, it's absolutely right that that transparency is there and that the information is provided. In terms of asylum seekers and the status of any claim they're making, that in future, in cases, that will be looked at and that information could be made available. We're working through now how that would actually work.
The government has dropped proposals to use a former retail site in Hampshire to house asylum seekers, ruling it unsuitable. It's after more than 1,000 people joined an anti-immigration protest there last week. Former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who called the site utterly inappropriate, due to address campaigners tonight. It will be the first time an MP has spoken at a protest over asylum accommodation. In Essex, meanwhile, Epping Forest District Council is seeking a High Court injunction to block the Bell Hotel from housing asylum seekers, warning it risks further escalating community tensions after months of demonstrations. European leaders are holding a joint call with Donald Trump today, urging him not to cut Ukraine out of peace talks with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky will join the German Chancellor, Sir Keir Starmer, and others to press that no deal should see its borders changed by force. Well, we are just hearing statements from the Russian authorities regarding those conversations due to take place with Trump on Friday, saying that Putin has already demanded his changes to the war before a ceasefire, that a full Ukrainian withdrawal from 4 regions of the country will be required in order to end the war, saying that Russia's stance will not change despite conversations set to take place with Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes have hit Gaza for a third day, with local officials reporting widespread disruption, destruction and difficulty reaching casualties. Israel's war cabinet has approved plans to take control of Gaza City, saying it is targeting remaining Hamas strongholds. The IDF described the situation as the beginning of a new state of combat. The UK, EU, Australia, Canada and Japan have all warned of famine unfolding in Gaza and called for immediate steps to improve access to aid. Israel, though, denies there is starvation in the Strip and says Hamas is responsible for civilian suffering. Those are the latest headlines for now. Stay with us for some breaking updates from our Home Security Editor Mark White just up next. First, though, we'll take a quick look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's how the markets are shaping up this morning. The pound will buy you $1.3560 and €1.1572. The price of gold is £2,478.87. That's per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,166 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and let's cross live now to Dover, where our Home and Security Editor Mark White has some exclusive breaking news to bring us.
Well, it is a grim new development in the migrant crisis. GB News can confirm that the largest ever number of small boat migrants to cross the English Channel on a single boat crossed overnight, 107 on that boat. And more worryingly, the boat itself was off a new design, longer than the normal boats that we see used by the people smugglers in the English Channel, which are in themselves long inflatable rafts. This is even longer, clearly then able to carry 107 migrants. And of course, what does that mean? Well, bigger boats mean potentially more migrants on board for crossing. That boat, as you can see from the images, has been brought to Dover Harbour. It is now being examined by Border Force and by law enforcement with a view to determining whether this is now a new specific design that we can expect to see being used by the people smugglers. We know that these boats are made to design, made to specification in backstreet factories in China before being shipped from China over land to Turkey and then through Europe to the northern coast of France. Clearly, it's the worst possible news if we are looking at a bigger design of vessel here now being employed by the people smugglers. We'll just have to wait and see how things develop in the days and weeks ahead to see whether this is now, having been tested out, the kind of vessel that they will be acquiring from these Chinese backstreet factories for use in the English Channel. But a very worrying development, 107 migrants, which is just a phenomenal number to think of in a single boat, having crossed the English Channel, arriving here in the early hours of this morning.
The sign, isn't it, that the people gangs, whoever's behind all this, they're not even vaguely fazed by what the government announced last week, this so-called one in, one out. Thousands of people crossing the channel, and now they're even flouting it, in a sense, by using the biggest ever vessel.
Yeah, I mean, they've had 7 years, Andrew, to really sort of hammer down the supply routes. They've got very robust supply lines with multiple manufacturers. So if the National Crime Agency and law enforcement counterparts around the globe make an impact, disrupt a certain supply line, then they can reroute, they can get them from other suppliers. And throughout the 7 years that we've seen the Channel migrant crisis, we've really gone from a boat that used to cross the channel that only ever carried a maximum of about half a dozen people, that was literally just a small dinghy, and that has slowly but surely increased in size. But now, of course, from these images that you were able to see there, the biggest boat used so far, long. Of course, that's going to bring with it its own potential difficulties in the channel, because the longer these vessels are, the more prone they are to reacting badly to the heavy swells and buckling, and perhaps the wooden floors in these boats giving way as they have done in the past. So not just a worrying development in terms of more numbers potentially coming across, but also the safety implications of having a longer, more flimsy designed boat out there in heavy swells.
Mark, the French recently changed their rules to allow French police to intervene in shallow waters to prevent these boats from leaving French shores. Why aren't they?
Quite.
Well, to be honest, I'm sick of hearing the government just telling us that the French are about to change the law and become more robust. They've been telling us this for months and months, and nothing has happened. We saw about 6 weeks ago or so, one French officer going into the water and puncturing a boat in shallow water. But then the next day, when the police were by a boat that was launching, they told the reporters they weren't going to puncture the boat because there was a couple of women and children on board the boat. So that's obviously the French police tactic, is they'll intervene if there are no women and children on board. Well, the people smugglers are not stupid. They are going to ensure that there is at least a woman, a child, a couple at least on every small boat to stop the French intervening like this. And despite the government telling us that they are going to start this pushback tactic of using their rigid inflatables to push the migrant boats back to shore, there's been no sign of it. You know, the law has apparently been passed. It was passed a month and a half ago, and yet the French have not yet enacted that policy.
No, I don't think they've got any plans to either, Mark. Mark, good to talk to you as ever. More chaos crossing the channel now in even bigger vessels. 107, breaking news there on GB News, 107 migrants in one single dinghy. If 3 of those a day...
I know. Well, the front pages of almost every newspaper today have got this photo of an enormous number of young men running onto the shore.
Some in balaclavas and masks.
Yeah.
They've lost control.
Will they do something about it? Well, moving on, facial recognition vans are being rolled out across England in a major policing crackdown.
So the ministers say this technology is going to help catch dangerous criminals, from rapists to violent offenders. Civil Liberties Group warn, however, it's a dangerous step towards a surveillance state. Here is the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, defending the use of these vans.
This is about using technology that can catch criminals who are wanted for the most serious crimes and keep the public safe.
So is this a powerful tool for public safety or a threat to our freedoms? Well, joining us to debate it, we have police and crime commentator Danny Shaw and also the head of research and investigations at Big Brother Watch, Jake Herford. Welcome to you both. Danny, let's start with you. Surely the police should be using whatever technology they have in order to catch criminals. Danny, can you hear me? Oh dear, I think let's go. OK, let's move on to Jake while we try to get Danny back. Jake, I'll repeat the same question to you. Surely the police should be allowed to use whatever technology they have at their disposal in order to catch criminals.
I think that's not the case. We all accept there are limits on the power of the state and the police. We wouldn't accept the police being able to burst into our homes without a warrant if the technology suggested something was in there. We wouldn't allow the police to install GPS trackers on our phones, trackers. We wouldn't consent to giving our fingerprints just to walk down the high street if the police asked us. So we accept there are limits on the police power and what they can do without suspicion. And what these facial recognition vans are is checking the identity of every single person walking down the high street. Whether you're innocent or wanted, your face is scanned and compared against a watch list. There's a huge invasion of privacy for every single person who passes one of those cameras. And this is going to be thousands and thousands of people every time it's deployed. And what's really concerning is the Home Office is rolling this out without any legislative backing. MPs have never voted on the use of live facial recognition in this country, yet we're spending huge amounts of public money on this intrusive tech. The Home Office should at least have the courage of conviction to put it to a vote and see the opposition to this, rather than pushing it through without any MPs say.
Jake, I can hear people shouting at the TV and the radio saying, yeah, OK, so I may be, my face may be caught in one of these cameras. If I've done nothing wrong, if I've broken no laws, so what?
Well, I think the nothing to hide, nothing to fear argument is sometimes a bit disingenuous. We all accept that we wouldn't allow the police to do certain things. We all sleep with our windows closed. We wouldn't allow the police into our homes without good reason. Nothing to hide, nothing to fear. There's always a limit to that. Now, I think the problem is that also this technology can cause errors. At the moment, Big Brother Watch is backing a legal case by an anti-knife crime campaigner, Sean Thompson. He was wrongly stopped by the police in London Bridge last year, held for a huge amount of time, and put under massive pressure to prove that negative, that he wasn't the person on the watch list. It was very demeaning, very stressful. It put him through a lot. This technology can go wrong. And in terms of what we see with this, we see a dozen officers stood around a van waiting for an iPad to go ping. I'd rather see the officers out, knocking on doors, speaking to people, trying to find the people they're looking for, rather than hanging around and hoping that technology might ping someone.
I think we can get Danny Shaw back in the conversation. Now, Danny, you were frozen at the beginning. You're unfrozen. Please tell us why this isn't a terrible invasion of our privacy and this is an important part of the police's efforts to tackle crime.
I think live facial recognition is an absolutely vital tool for the police, and it's taken too long, in my view, for this measure to be rolled out. We're seeing now 10 other forces where the vans will be cited. Since, until now, it's been just basically the Metropolitan Police and South Wales Police that have used it. And my concern is that the efforts to use this technology have been stymied because of some arguments put forward by privacy and liberty campaigners that never take into account our security, our right to walk the streets without being assaulted or without having a crime committed against us, and the fact that there are criminals and wanted suspects who are out there who have not been apprehended. And these vans do make a huge difference.
But Danny, sorry to cut in, but the point that Jake and others are making is that at the moment there is no legislative framework governing.
That's not quite true, Miriam.
But it's down to the College of Police guidance, and of course the College of Policing is also responsible for non-crime hate incidents, and we all know where they've led us.
Yeah, I think Jake is misleading you on this path. There is extensive guidance from the College of Policing. There was a legal case. Hang on, can I just finish? There was a case which went to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal put some restrictions in place, but basically said it could go ahead. The police have complied with that. They comply with the Data Protection Act, the Equality Act, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, the Human Rights Act. It's overseen by the Biometrics Surveillance Commissioner, by the Inspectorate of Constabulary, by the Information Commissioner. There are numerous watchdogs and legal regulations surrounding facial recognition, which is why the Met and South Wales Police have been using it. What the government is saying is they will put in a bespoke legal framework, and I think they're quite right to do that. And I hope that Big Brother Watch and other campaigners contribute to the consultation leading to that legal framework, so we can set something up that does have wider public backing than it does at the moment. But it is not true to say that this is some kind of fly-by-night law enforcement tool that has no regulation behind it. That is not correct. And it also, the algorithm that is used by the police has been independently tested by the National Physical Laboratory, which found that at the settings used by police forces, there was no bias used.
Jake, he shot your fox, hasn't he?
That's not quite correct. It found there was no significant bias at the settings police currently use. The police are open. They may use lower settings circumstances. But I think the idea that Danny, please let me finish. Please let me finish. The idea that we're using a patchwork of laws, most of which predate the use of live facial recognition to regulate a new technology, is frightening. We should be having laws that are up to date, that actually talk about the technology. Relying on the Human Rights Act from more than 25 years ago, data protection laws, human rights laws that predate the use of live facial recognition. The Bridges case found actually it wasn't lawful due to some of the equality issues. There's also judicial review pending about the Metropolitan Police's uses, because how the police are now using facial recognition has advanced way beyond what the Bridges ruling allowed. So I think it's disingenuous to say there's this Frankenstein hodgepodge of laws that, yes, the police say it's using, but using the College of Police and Guidance, allowing the police to mark their own homework. There's currently a lack of trust in policing in this country. And rather than waiting for a framework to be put forward, to have that legislative basis, the Home Office and the police are basically letting the horse bolt before the gates even open. We need to first start with a legislative framework to lay out how we can use this, rather than using it first and looking after the law later, which is what the Home Office and the police are doing.
All right, Danny, you've got the final word, but you have to make it briefly.
This is an important piece of technology. 1,000 arrests by the Metropolitan Police by using this technology in 2.5 years, including for sexual offences and violent crimes. 93 registered sex offenders who breached the terms of their conditions were spotted because of this technology, which is a vital tool for law enforcement. We should welcome it with appropriate safeguards.
On that note, that's Danny Shaw, crime commentator, and Big Brother Watch's Jake Hertford. Thank you so much. I wonder what your view is. Do tell us what you think. Up next.
Builders are going through the biscuit blues as homeowners are apparently offering less of the sweet treats.
Can you get a nice cup of tea? I always make a cup of tea for my builder.
Okay, very important. Also, there are wildfires raging across southern Europe as temperatures top 40 degrees C. Red heat alerts have been issued in parts of Italy, France, Spain, Portugal and the Balkans, and we're seeing live pictures now of Portugal on screen. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you. for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and we've got our panel back in the studio. Mike Parry and Stephen Pound join us to discuss the papers. What are we starting with, Chance?
Well, the Queen of Scotland's coming here.
Yeah, well, isn't it ironic that if she'd got her way on her desperate ambition to make Scotland independent, she'd need a passport
Talking about
Nicola Sturgeon, yeah.
Exactly, we're talking about Nicola Sturgeon. Come to this country, flash a passport, and so on. I had a mate who worked for a long time in newspapers in Scotland.
Yeah.
And she wasn't averse to a glass of bubbly on a Friday afternoon. In fact, you know, a couple of glasses of bubbly. But my mate said the only thing she'd talk about after a couple of glasses of champagne was striding into the White House as the leader of the world's newest independent country. That seemed to be her lifelong political ambition, to the extent that everything else in Scotland went south.
Yeah.
Well,
drug
education,
taking, illegal drug taking, education. Yeah.
There's a lovely thing in the paper yesterday about this, about the BBC had an interview with her and they wanted to keep it secret. So they actually came up with a secret code name for it. They called it Operation Caviar. Get it?
Oh, I wonder why.
You think, you know,
Absolutely.
Sturgeon.
Yes, I get it.
But seriously...
You think the BBC, how low can they go?
Seriously, instead of looking at her career on a sort of even keel, I mean, the balance of her career is so weighted in failure, utter complete failure. They couldn't even build a ferry to get Scottish people from one island to another.
It's 4 years delayed, isn't it?
And about 3 times over budget.
And yet,
I mean,
for 10 years.
And yet she wants to move to England, the land of milk and honey.
Yeah.
You'd have thought, I don't think we should let her.
I'm sorry. I don't.
We don't want to hear.
Sorry, she's leaving the land of iron brew and deep fried
border.
It's because she realises people in Scotland are sick to the back teeth of her.
Totally agree. Historically, politicians who've come from Scotland of the era of our great friend Andrew Neil, a journalist, obviously, but Gordon Brown and people like that.
Donald Dewar,
big figures.
They enjoy the best education system in the world. Scottish grammar schools.
I don't intrude on private grief here, but Miriam Cates did put up a spirited defence for yesterday.
Oh, really?
To which my response was, she's ghastly. Not Miriam.
Okay.
We've cleared that
so
one.
if she's coming down, you're going to be looking out for a camper van upon the M1.
Yeah, where is it?
Exactly.
All I said was, having watched the interview, that on a human level, I felt sorry for her. And I think... If you
my bleeding heart, my bleeding heart.
I said, I feel sorry for the people of Scotland who she's screwed.
Opponents, we're toast. What's the point?
Yeah, but hang on, if you screw up...
sorry, it's for Scotland.
Exactly. If you screw up a whole country...
Mike, I'm not arguing that she was right in her politics at all. I'm saying that she's a person, she's a woman, she's a human being who took a lot of pressure, and I think it's perfectly natural to feel empathy for someone.
I feel empathy for the head of North Korea.
Well, how are you any better than your opponents if you can't see the humanity in people that you disagree with?
Well, you can actually say to them, some of the decisions you made have ruined people's lives, have ruined the country, and have put politics back 30 years in that country.
Now, let's quickly talk about tradesmen.
Yeah,
Yeah, isn't this bizarre? There's a thing in the paper about, you know, one of the great embarrassing things I have to say about people in the sort of my middle-class part of West London is when the tradespersons come, they say, oh, I say, Jeremy, oh, hello, mate, how are you? Get up the old apples and pears. You know, they put on this ridiculous working-class accent. But there's a thing about offering people cups of tea and letting them use the toilet. Now, apparently, offering the cup of tea, you know, usually with 6 sugars, is perfectly normal. But people won't open the biscuit tin. And the tea
but what about, well, why would you not let them use the loo? Because otherwise they're going to wee on the floor.
Well, that was...
or in the garden.
Well, I mean, there's an answer, of course. There's the Parry trick. How do you work it out?
Well, no, I've got like 2 bathrooms in my main residence. One is carpeted.
One's carpeted.
Well, 2 and then another separate loo. One is carpeted because it comes off my bedroom, but the other one has got a tile floor, OK? So they're only allowed to use the tile floor. The minute they leave, my housekeeping lady arrives from around the corner and does that bathroom. You know what I mean? does it all the time. And the other thing is, because I'm a gentleman of a certain age, I feel that if I offered a young fella of 28 who's got a screwdriver in his hand a cup of tea, he might look at me a bit funny.
Really?
So,
what are you suggesting?
Because I think that's
you're
rather
a gay icon,
no, I think it's
What would you offer him instead? A cup of black coffee?
No, what I do is I say, listen, mate, do me a good job and I'll look after you when you're finished.
What does the butler say?
Sorry,
I'll
look after you when you're finished.
He gets £30 in cash. It's £30 in cash on top of the bill that you're paying as a machine, and a lovely bottle of white wine to take home.
Very nice. And Stephen, what do you do in your house? Do you make them a cup of tea? Do you give them biscuits? Or is it all down to Mrs. Pound?
Well, no, I have to say, the last tradesperson who came to my house was my son doing the rewiring.
Right.
And he got naffled.
Cheapskate.
Right. But I mean, we would make a cup of tea. I mean, I'd always make a cup of tea or coffee.
Of course you would. Yeah.
And if there's biscuits in the cupboard, I'll give them some.
Well, I have to say, the way Mike talks about his housekeeping lady and his under-gardener and his butler and the downstairs maid and everything, I mean, you know...
He's been very successful.
Yeah.
We like success on GB News. We applaud success on GB News.
Of course
we applaud Thatcherism too.
Of course we do. It's just a natural phenomenon. You know, people are welcome in my house, providing they do everything I tell them to do. They take their shoes off at the door. They can only sit on certain of my chairs, right? And they can only walk on certain parts of my carpet.
Well, when Kenneth Williams, who used to live just around the corner from where I worked in Middlesex Hospital, Kenneth Williams' house was extraordinary in Albany Street. He allowed nobody to use the toilet.
Well, he was a hygiene
was covered in polythene, and everything was covered in plastic and polythene.
He was a hygiene fanatic. What biscuits do they get in your house, the tradesmen?
Well, I have to say, we do like a jammy dodger.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe Gary
think that's a euphemism.
I'm afraid they get boring digestives in my house.
Is that it? Yeah. Well, don't get anything in my house. I'm telling you, get in, do the job, get out. Here's your bottle of wine.
And they might get a chocolate finger.
Excuse me?
Nice bottle of wine.
Chateauneuf du Pape.
Very good.
Yes.
White one.
Well, no, it's not
chocolate finger. Red. It's a nice red.
Yeah.
Stephen, we don't wish to be vulgar even about a bottle of wine, if you don't mind.
Chateauneuf du Pape's
Shall
a
we
red
leave it
wine.
there? It must be time for some news. Here's some fun.
So, welcome to the wine hour.
Hello, very good morning to you from the newsroom. The top story, a record 107 migrants have arrived in the UK on a single small boat this morning in what officials say is a worrying new development. Authorities fear the larger boats could allow people smugglers to send even bigger groups across. 3 children have been charged with the murder of a man at a seaside resort. The 2 boys, aged 14 and 15, and a 16-year-old girl are accused of attacking 49-year-old Alexander Cashford during an altercation on the North Kent coast. Live facial recognition is expanding across England and Wales with 10 vans in 7 forces. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says they'll target people wanted for the most serious crimes. And President Zelensky is joining European leaders ahead of Trump's summit with Putin in Alaska. He warns any deal without Ukraine would be dead decisions. Germany, the UK and other allies are pressing the United States to keep Ukraine fully involved. And wildfires are sweeping across southern Europe, forcing thousands from their homes. Red heat alerts are in place across Italy, France, Spain and Portugal, with temperatures well above 40 degrees. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Well, coming up very shortly at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily. Welcome to the studio. What's coming up?
Thank you for welcoming us to the studio. A great show so far.
You're very welcome.
Why are we all being so polite?
I know, we're all so polite.
We always are not.
Oh, tell us to shove off. We'd like a longer show or something.
Got 1 minute, get on.
Now, we all know that Keir Starmer has pledged to smash the gangs, don't we? But new data's in from the National Crime Agency, and we're actually smashing fewer gangs than before Labour came into power. So, yes, 192 arrests of people smugglers since April. No, in the year to April, as compared to 200-odd in the previous year. So we're smashing less gangs, fewer gangs.
The minister doing the broadcast round this morning, Diana Johnson, was saying, and we are making real progress, we're arresting more. Just
not according to the data.
By what metric?
Yes.
Now, I suppose the government could say that, OK, the year to April, so April, May, June, 3 months of that they weren't in office. But 9 months of it they were in office.
And couple that with the doubling of the number of migrants who are crossing.
And they had plenty of time to get their plan to smash the gangs in ready to go, because they've been talking about it for a very long time.
Yeah, and they're adding more resources to the National Crime Agency. They said they're doing that. But 192 arrests, I think 50,000 people crossing the Channel. It's not a fabulous ratio.
There is actually a slightly strange thing that I think must be going on in the head of government ministers at the moment. They're measuring inputs, not outputs. So whenever they say, what are you doing? They say, we're doing lots of things. We've signed a deal with France. We've signed a deal with Germany. We've paid more money to the National Crime Agency. We've got a new task force. We've given them counter-terrorism powers. We've got a returns deal. Like, they talk about the inputs, and then they ignore the outputs, which are all, well, more people are arriving than at any year on record, save for the Norman invasion. They're ignoring the outputs in terms of the fewer arrests. They're ignoring the real, tangible things, and they're just talking politics.
Yeah, and it's all well and good Suella Braverman having this win for her own area, Waterlooville. But what does it mean for other areas?
I know.
The whole thing has to stop.
Where are these camps going to go?
Yeah, the whole thing has to stop. We're going to be speaking to someone in Bournemouth who's not best pleased with what's going on there.
I'm sure. Well, thanks to Emily.
Or that was more on midday. And up next, that was we're going to be talking about the Education Secretary, aren't we? Oh, in fact,
I think teachers can make that request, but of course, what we'll be looking at is making sure that people are able to exercise their views on this topic too.
Bridget Phillips and
for God's sake, aren't there more important things for this Education Secretary to talk about? I can't stand
more
it.
From Mixed Pierce and Mixed Kate's coming up next.
Yeah, you're Mixed Kate's now.
Anywhere.
You're Mixed Carter.
What happened to Ms?
I don't know. I don't know.
Good grief.
What happened to this? What's gone wrong with us? No wonder our school's in such a mess.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Lots of fine sunny weather to come as we go through this afternoon, and with that it is going to feel pretty hot, but we also have the risk of some thundery downpours developing. There is an area of low pressure to the west of us, but it's a fairly weak low pressure system, which is why it's not going to bring a huge amount of rain, and it's just helping to drag some hot air up from the south, and it's this that's leading to our temperatures being so high at the moment. There will be a few showery bursts across parts of the southeast perhaps as we go through this afternoon, but it's across northern parts of Scotland where there's the risk of some heavy, perhaps thundery downpours developing. Like I said though, most places having a fine day with plenty of sunshine, and in that sunshine feeling hot, especially across eastern parts of England where temperatures are going to be a little bit higher than yesterday. Further west it may be just a couple of degrees cooler. Watch out for some heavy showers across parts of Scotland as we go through this evening. There's some uncertainty as to whether or not we will see them developing, but if they do, they are likely to pack quite a punch. A few showers can't be ruled out across Northern Ireland, but it's looking dry here to end the day, and similar across much of England and Wales. Still though, just the potential for a few bursts of rain across the far southeast. Through the night, we're going to continue to see the risk of some showers across particularly northern parts of Scotland, but then as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, perhaps the potential for some showers to develop across other parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland as well. Also, a bit of showery rain may be feeding into parts of Wales, but this is less likely to be heavy and thundery. For most, it's going to be another pretty warm night, temperatures not dropping a huge amount. It is humid still, and so that's going to make it a bit uncomfortable for sleeping. Then through the rest of the day tomorrow, some showery bursts of rain across parts of Wales and maybe western parts of England. Further east, a greater chance of staying dry, but all the time across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, there's a fairly significant risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Temperatures for many will be down a degree or two compared to recently.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. And wildfires are sweeping across southern Europe, forcing thousands of people from their homes. We've got red heat alerts in place across Italy, France, Spain and Portugal, with temperatures above 40 degrees.
Now, you can see the point of having alerts where you've got proper fires like that, as opposed to these stupid amber alerts we have here, where it's just a bit of hot weather.
Yeah. Well, these can spread really quickly, can't they?
Of course. And these are images, if you're listening on the radio, we've got images of really, really severe bushfires. Bush is the wrong word. Countryside. Yeah. This is in Portugal, and we're going to keep you up to date from this throughout the day. And there's helicopters flying overhead with water, but they're fighting a losing battle, it looks to me.
It's been so hot and dry for so long that there's just nothing to stop this spreading, is there? So if you're on holiday in the area, do get in touch, gbnews.com/your say.
Now, moving on, World War II veteran Jim Wren survived the sinking of HMS Repulse in 1941 before a brutal 3.5 years as a prisoner of war. He was, of course, in fighting against Japan.
Now, he's 105 years old, unable to join the King and Queen for Victory over Japan Day commemorations, but never fear, royalty will come to Jim instead.
Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker has more.
Well, I met some very, very fine men. A lot of them are gone. A lot of them went with the ship. And I'm the final and last one. And I suppose I got to think I'm very fortunate in that sense.
8 decades ago, Jim Wren was enduring brutal conditions as a prisoner of war, captured by Japan 3 years earlier.
Valuables and everything was all taken from us. So we left the ship with just what we stuck up in. And that's all the clothing I had all that 3.5 years.
Now aged 105, he's unable to join the King and Queen on Friday for commemorations marking the end of the Second World War.
Hello. Hello. I'm guessing you must be Jim.
So royalty joined him. The Duchess of Edinburgh came for tea at Jim's care home in Wiltshire.
Well, thank you for having me here today.
Great honour to me to be here.
Well, it's my honour. What attracted you to the Navy?
Nothing attracted me to the Navy. I didn't want in the Navy.
Fair enough.
Destruction is piped aboard. The huge shells to serve the 15-inch guns are swung in, somewhere on the Seven Seas.
Before being captured in 1942, Jim served on the British battlecruiser HMS Repulse when Japanese bombers struck the previous December.
I was on the mess deck having a cup of tea, and the alarm was raised. The bomb struck right behind me. And, fortunately, the bomb didn't go off and went down 3 decks before it exploded. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Its sinking took the lives of 508 officers and men. Jim survived and was picked up by another ship.
Is this you looking very handsome here?
Jim bravely shared his memories with the King's sister-in-law. And Jim's son-in-law, Andy Dables, appreciated her support.
Well, she was just so knowledgeable. She must have read his story well, and she was just so easy with him, talking to him. And that makes it easier for you to talk then, doesn't it?
Sadly, Chinese scavenger ships have since raided the wreck of HMS Repulse. Jim claims the anchor is currently impounded in a Malaysian scrapyard. He thinks it needs a more permanent home.
Well, I like to see the actual anchors go to the war memorial that we've got in the Arboretum.
Many have already started a longer voyage, taking them back to the land they have served so bravely.
Jim was liberated in 1945 when the Japanese surrendered. He kept what's happened to him secret until his 99th birthday. Now, he wants younger generations to remember the victims of the Imperial Japanese Army.
I go to bed every night, and that's my first thought. Little kids, babies, you'd never believe it in all your life. Men or any nation would make people suffer like that.
Cameron Walker, GB News in Wiltshire.
Well, we have some breaking news now. Hefin David, the Welsh Labour member of the Senedd for Caerphilly, has died suddenly, First Minister Eluned Morgan has said.
Yeah, he said he was elected to the Senedd in 2016 and served the constituent until his passing. During his time in the Senedd, he focused on issues focusing on education, skills and support for carers, and he was a member of several committees. There'll be, of course, a by-election there, and it's probably, when we talk about politics when we've lost someone so soon, but Labour will not welcome that.
No, only 47.
No age at all.
Very tragic.
Very sad.
Breaking news now. And up next, we have a weather forecast for our European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across some southern parts of Europe tomorrow, there will be some showery rain, which could turn heavy and perhaps even thundery. But a big talking point is still the exceptional heat affecting parts of Portugal, Spain and France. Yesterday, temperatures were in the low to mid-40s in some places. The heat's going to ease a little, but it's going to return again as we go towards the weekend. Further east, some heavy showery rain, like I mentioned, could be a bit thundery at times, particularly across parts of Italy. Elsewhere, it's looking fine and sunny for many through the outlook.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, just like week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So if she hasn't got more important things to do, nevertheless, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, has said that teachers now have the right to ask pupils to call them mooks, rather than Mr, Mrs or Miss or Ms.
Confusing. Well, we're now joined by the campaign lead for Sex Matters, Fiona McInerney. Fiona, thank you for joining us this morning. Now, this is a real situation. I know of parents whose children have come back to school in September and been told by the head teacher, your form tutor is no longer Miss Smith or whatever. You must call them mooks. What are children supposed to do in this circumstance?
Well, it's very confusing for them because the person that they're supposed to trust and believe for every minute of the day that they're in the classroom is now implying that she's no longer a woman. And so what sounds like something trivial, you know, a title, is actually a very serious problem because children, this is one more way that children are being taught in schools that instead of the basic reality of everyone being either male or female, that there's some mystery about it. And we know that this is harmful and confusing to them. So really, I think the guidance that's been awaited from the Department for Education is urgently needed, because what are schools supposed to do, you know, when they have a teacher making these demands? Are they supposed to accommodate the teacher and say children must respect the teacher, or are they supposed to accommodate reality and say, actually, no, the priorities here are education and safeguarding.
Right.
And if your identity is that important to you, maybe this isn't for you.
Can you help me, Fiona, because I genuinely am puzzled. What does MX mean?
Well, I'm not sure either, but it's hard to keep up, isn't it? Who knows? Maybe they've invented a new identity. I think it's a way for someone to say, don't assume that you know whether I'm male or female. And, you know, women have fought long and hard not to be dismissed or not to have assumptions made about us because we're female. But the fact is everybody can see who's a man or a woman. The point is that shouldn't limit your opportunities, but we shouldn't have to deny reality in order to have opportunities in life. And to be teaching children that this is what's important is just getting in the way of proper education and proper safeguarding.
That's my point. This Education Secretary was quite rightly talking about white kids falling behind in schools, which has been a traditional problem for many years, just this week. And now she goes off at a complete tangent on an obscure, I hate to use the word, woke issue.
Well, I think she may have been caught on the hoof. I can't speak for her, but, you know, what she really needs to do is think through all the aspects of gender people's demands, these special demands, and think, what are the implications? What are they saying to children? And they need to come right back to the primary focus of education. And then, you know, they'll see there is no room for this sort of nonsense there, and that it's
Fiona, I'm
harmful.
so sorry, we're out of time. We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you for joining
because I was agreeing with everything.
You don't know if you're a man or a woman, you shouldn't be in a school.
I was agreeing with everything Fiona was saying. Bridget Phillipson, get on with your job, please. Sort our schools out.
And getting on with their job is Tom and Emily.
We've had the jobs tax from the Chancellor at the last budget. Now are we going to get a further death tax? Huge speculation that inheritance tax is about to be whacked right up.
And new data from the National Crime Agency shows that there are actually been fewer arrests of people smugglers since the Labour government came into power, despite the endless pledges to smash the gangs. We'll reveal all next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many, it is going to be another hot day, but with that, there is the risk of some showers, and some of these could turn heavy and thundery in a few places too. But starting off, and actually at the moment, there's a fair bit of cloud across parts of Wales, southern southwestern England, but a lot of this is going to burn away, and so increasing amounts of sunshine here, and for many, through the afternoon, it is a fine sunny picture. That being said, a few showers will be starting to develop, particularly across parts of Scotland, maybe in the far southeast as well. It is going to be hot again in the sunshine, though the highest temperatures will be confined to more eastern parts where we're looking at highs in the low, possibly mid-30s for some. Then as we go through into this evening, we are going to see a few more showery bursts pushing their way in across parts of the southeast. A bit more cloud here, 1 or 2 showers also possible across parts of the southwest, but otherwise lots of dry weather, lots of clear weather across England and Wales. Patchy cloud for Northern Ireland. Across Scotland, a few scattered showers, and these showers are likely to turn a bit more intense, a bit heavier as we go through the rest of the evening and overnight. There's a reasonable chance that we could see some thundery downpours, which could cause a few isolated issues. Otherwise, and a few other showery bursts are possible, particularly around some coastal spots, but for many it's going to be a dry night and there will be some clear skies. But temperatures are going to hold up. The high humidity means it's going to be another warm, sticky night for most of us, and there could even be a few pockets of mist and fog in a few places as well. Then through tomorrow, the biggest talking point will be the heavy, perhaps thundery downpours that are likely to develop, particularly across northern parts of Scotland. These could cause some issues as we go through Thursday. Elsewhere, a few showery bursts across some parts of Northern Ireland, England and Wales, but towards the southeast, staying dry and often sunny here. And when you get the sunshine, it is again going to feel pretty hot. Temperatures peaking tomorrow in the high 20s. We may just about scrape to 30 Celsius, so not quite as hot as it has been recently.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially